was a nightmare that I got in my brain every night, where I get caught in a drain and it spins me all around, and I give up and I drown.
So I recently finished Unbeatable, and I have to say it was a really interesting experience. Interesting as in, this is the first time where I am completely conflicted on how I truly feel about something. Because it trades a balance of substance and spectacle of 50-50 to more like 30% substance and 70% spectacle. In other words, it's really unpolished, but it's also really polished at the same time. Now, before I do begin with my critique on Unbeatable, I am aware that it's the company D-Cell's first game, which is a massive accomplishment in itself. And the Kickstarter back in 2021 raised over $265,000 that easily surpassed their original goal of $55,000, making this a really anticipated game. I intend my critique to be taken as things to improve on whenever they release their second game, or if they make it Unbeatable 2, to improve the shortcomings to their ambitious first title, as the quality is there, but it felt like some things got more attention than other things. So with all that being said, I want to touch on the story first, as all my criticism stems from an intriguing story. Unbeatable is a music rhythm game where music is illegal and you do crimes. The main character you play as is named Beats, and the villain group, or the police in this case, is called Harm. Very reassuring, right? The story I thought was decent with the information that was presented to me at face value. It is a very complicated story that I immediately didn't care to interact with because it is just extra lore thrown out there for people who want to keep digging into these characters. The main lore that the game does tell me though is more than enough to accept the story for what it is, because it's a story about finding what you truly want to be in life and letting go of personal struggles that haunt you. It uses a rebelling rock group as a vehicle to carry the overall theme of Unbeatable, and it worked on me. I rooted for everybody in the rock group. When they are screaming at each other, I want to yell at them, calm down, and tell them to talk to each other like actual human beings. When they are cooperating with each other and playing on stage, I'm cheering for them. When they emotionally bond with one another, I get a little emotional as well. It feels human to think of these characters like they're actual people. And I'm not doing them any justice by calling them just characters. They feel real, at least to me. People that are ever evolving, who have feelings of their own and trauma that they must deal with. That is good writing. But none of what I've just said would have ever been written if I didn't push through the absolute bog that was chapter 2. I kid you not, this was the slowest point of the game that almost made me drop the game.
Man, no, man. What the hell? Oh my God, no way.
If you haven't played this game or maybe forgotten this part of the game, Bee and her friend Quaver tried to bust 2 other criminals out their cell, but they ended up locked as well. So they try to find a plan to bust out. The problem with chapter 2 is it leaned too hard into the storytelling section of the game. Need I remind you, this is a rhythm game. So for a chapter that goes at such long lengths without a rhythm section is bad pacing. They even introduced a useless minigame that honestly I didn't even know if I was doing the right thing 99% of the time. Then when I do get to a rhythm section, I completely forgot about the controls almost immediately since it went through long stretches without it. This isn't a good chapter conceptually. I think the idea of Bee and Quaver breaking out of prison sounds like a cool idea, but it misses the mark by not thinking about the player in the process. It literally got carried away explaining the story and introducing a useless mechanic that's only used for that chapter. Another issue I faced during chapter 2 is when Bee is doing the baseball minigame where you must hit the baseballs at the perfect time, and I felt like the visual aid wasn't helping at all, and if anything it made it worse to land hits. Granted, the whole segment looks really cool and the music is great, But this is the negative part of the video, okay? So let's just kind of roll with it. Chapter 2 also exposes some of the Unbeatable's technical flaws, like how some rhythm sections don't fit the rooms that they are in, which is a poor design decision that I thought would be a no-brainer to at least change the size of the room to not make it so noticeable. And this isn't even exclusive to chapter 2 anymore. This goes on for the whole entire game. Another complaint I have is with the voice lines. Not specifically the quality of the voice lines, but the choice to have some recorded and others not recorded. It's strange to have the characters have recorded dialogue, then immediately cut to not having recorded voice lines. I understand if they was talking in their head or just random conversation like commenting on an object to not have dialogue. But there are multiple instances where they would have a seamlessly important recorded conversation just for the next lines to go unrecorded, which creates an inconsistent problem that shouldn't even be an issue. Maybe they ran out of budget or they didn't have enough time to implement it in. I'm unsure what the issue is, but this bothered me throughout the whole entire game because it ruins the immersion and the emotional feeling that the characters express towards one another. By cutting out some voice lines mid-sentence, it greatly diminishes any sort of emotional weight that the scene may have wanted to carry, especially since Unbeatable is an emotionally driven story. It could potentially lessen the impact of the story for others. On top of the voice lines not being consistent, the music during dialogue is sometimes too loud that it's hard to make out what characters are saying.
We're not scared of you. What?
Isn't that what we're supposed to say?
No, because you are scared. I'm not
She was
scared.
talking to the little kid. I don't even know who you two are. Harm guys?
Barely. You're glorified publicists?
Oh, are we ever glorified? God, sis. She doesn't even know us.
Holy shit.
We should educate you. The name is...
Just arrest us already.
Well, you ruined the introduction.
I obviously need to hear what the characters are saying, but with the music being noticeably louder than the characters, I'm steady fighting with focusing on the music or trying my best to hear the characters' dialogue. And just like how I already mentioned that anything interfering with the emotional storytelling of Unbeatable is making the overall story weaker. This is another example of diminishing the quality of the story by technical problems. As for the cutscenes, I thought the majority of cutscenes was fun and gets the point across decently well, but I do also have some minor complaints like the transition between scenes are extremely cheap and always end abruptly. I mean, with a game that praises itself in its visuals, you would think that they would ball out on transitions too, but I guess not. With transitions being so immediate, it also introduces the characters visually spawning into the scene that makes the overall transition feel clunky and interrupts the flow between scenes that makes the game feel unpolished. Now, as I gave 2 examples of minigames in the past being the baseball and B's job as minigames, all the other quirky minigames I found to be nice additional gameplay features that I would like to play more often for fun. But I can't play said minigames because you cannot replay them unless if you want to go through the whole chapter again just to replay them again. It would be awesome to have all the minigames be a bonus feature in the main menu after you finish the game to just mess around with. I'm not terribly nitpicky about this change, but it would be a nice quality of life change for someone who do like minigames to play them without going through the whole chapter again. And also Prison Mall. Do I really have to explain how terrible of a minigame this is? Also, chapter 4 sewage water. That's literally it. Like, how can the water look this bad? So backtracking all the way to chapter 2, where technical issues and questionable design decisions started to affect how I originally perceived Unbeatable and almost considered dropping it before I ultimately decided to keep pushing through the game. And that might have been the greatest decision I have made yet. Let's talk music. Music is a universal sound that can convey feelings or emotions. It is readily available for everyone to hear, and that's what makes it so powerful. But Unbeatable having a completely original soundtrack, it's almost essential for the game and what it wants to convey to the player. It features punk rock songs with also some softer emotional sounding tracks that focus on rebellion, grief, loss, power, and most of all, finding who you are. I genuinely think without the amazing music that accommodates the player really throughout the entire time you're playing, Unbeatable would be nothing. It wouldn't make sense as a game without the music. You need the music to understand the game. If it had generic music that the dev felt like they had to put in there to pad out silence, it wouldn't be a good game, purely because it didn't come from actual passion. It came out of laziness. But see, Unbeatable have plenty of soul already poured into it, and we will touch on that later, but music is Unbeatable's greatest strength, and I loved every single song that's on the OST. The second biggest strength of Unbeatable is its very unique art style. It is oozing with flavor and vibrant visuals. The worst part is it knows it's beautiful. That's why it's constantly teasing you with its cel-shaded visuals. Honestly, my biggest attraction to Unbeatable was its presentation. I was interested in the game before I even knew it was a rhythm game, until I discovered that it was and knew I had to get it. Every single scene felt like I was in an anime. And speaking of anime, it had the gall to even include animated cutscenes that completely sealed my love for the art direction. I have no idea how long or how much it costs to make these genuine masterpieces, but these are sprinkled throughout the game, and I love the flavor that they added to Unbeatable's overall identity. Like Mouse PI for Hire, they have my favorite art direction of any game of this year, purely because its style complemented its overall direction. It isn't forced or out of place, it's just natural. For the story, I complimented it at the beginning and harped on it in the middle, but I never explained how I thought about the whole entire story. Well, I thought the story was flawed, but I understood and enjoyed its overall plot. Yes, chapter 2 was such a bore that almost killed the game for me, but after that slog, everything after that was really fun. I loved all the characters in the game because they all do serve a purpose in interacting with Beat and their own problems alongside Beat. I loved the dramatic twist with Penny being the villain this whole entire time. Very unexpected turn of events, and the ending was well done. After finishing the story, there was another mode named Arcade, and I genuinely think the story is a gateway into having you play the arcade mode, because the arcade is just that great. There's a variety of different songs, difficulty, character, and map selection that you can just choose right out the gate. And it's so much variety that you can spend months trying to beat the hardest difficulties of all the songs. If you want to know, hard mode is my sweet spot. I will also quickly mention how simple the controls are, but man, are they hard to master, because on Unbeatable difficulty, when things get crazy, it is easy to lose focus very quick. I firmly believe if you only play Unbeatable for the story, you're missing out on a huge chunk on what the game is quietly trying to nudge you to play, because the soundtrack is just that good to passively listen to by itself. It made me appreciate it more. But all in all, you can sink so much time into arcade mode because it's made for you to simply get better at the game, and it's extremely replayable. But after spending so much time editing this script and going back and forth with what is the point of Unbeatable as a game, I came to the conclusion that Unbeatable doesn't want to be perfect. It has a lot of issues, as I already outlined before, but I think it knows that it's imperfect, and that's okay. I'm not saying we should be happy with games that obviously need more quality of life features, but Unbeatable shown me multiple times throughout the game's runtime that it's not because it's incapable of giving me a good experience, but because it wanted me to trust them. You heard me criticize them many times for their questionable decisions, but in the end, I choose to love it because I trust their intuition and know whatever they did next will make me proud. Their entire game is constantly preaching about finding who you are and letting go of personal gripes that hold you back. And weirdly enough, that message resonated with me because I realized I was reflecting my own personal relationship with Unbeatable, learning to embrace it for what it was. And I thought that was beautiful.